Renata Adler of the New York Times says this movie is nonetheless of a certain fascination in its joining of two styles, pot and advertising. J.R. Jones of the Chicago Reader says it's uneven, but mostly a blast. And, considered a train wreck in 1968, begins Cleveland.com's Jerry Shamray, this rock flick keeps getting better with age. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Head.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be?
It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters! What's up?
Hey, Dan.
What's up? And hello, John. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for welcoming me, and welcome to you too.
Yeah, I mean, John, by the way, just to establish, is the Zoom meeting host, and I mean, everyone knows what that means now, so...
That's true. We were doing Zoom before everyone hopped on the bandwagon.
We were Zooming before it was cool, and I didn't...
That's true.
I did not know what it was when, a year ago or around then, when John was like, hey, Zoom.
Well, what I came to realize is that as opposed to Skype, there's less lag time between what I'm saying and when you are hearing it. So it was a lot easier to make it feel more natural.
But I have to say, in all of our time using Zoom to have these chats, this is the first time, I believe, one of us is using a background.
I know.
And
Zoom
how
backgrounds
appropriate.
are all the rage right now. I am currently using an image, like a publicity still of the Monkees. They're all kind of like jumping up in the air.
Yeah. Or they're falling, yeah.
And I have to say, the Monkees have been playing in my house nonstop all week, and it hasn't just been for me. My almost 3-year-old daughter loves the Monkees and demands that I put them on all day, every day.
Wow. What's her favorite Monkees song?
It's hard to say. I mean, definitely like Here We Come, the theme to the Monkees, like that's definitely her ultimate jam. But I think that as long she likes it better. She likes it more because I send it to the TV to play. And I think that when she sees them, she likes it better than like an album cover where she doesn't see them, like the Head soundtrack.
Right. Yeah. But, did she watch Head with you?
She did not watch Head with me.
No?
She would if I gave her the chance. And I mean, there isn't much that's really objectionable.
Not that she would pick up on. I mean, I don't know that I would want her seeing a guy get shot in the head like 10 times.
Well, they show leading up to it. There's some very clever cutting that goes on.
Yeah. And we'll get into this, but if you are familiar with what they're referencing, you complete the puzzle.
Yes.
So, but I don't want to jump in quite yet.
No. Dan, did you have any one more things about our last episode, Kindergarten Cop?
Oh boy, Kindergarten Cop. I could wax poetic about Kindergarten Cop. What I wanted to mention, and forgive me, I have yet to finish listening to the episode, so I don't know what treat you've put at the end.
Oh, Dan, you're going to like it.
Is it Swede Mason?
Is it what?
Swede Mason? The
No.
Back to the Carpet?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, because that's what I was going to mention is...
I forgot about that, actually.
Well,
it's along those same lines.
You shared that with me. Well, the guy did 2 of them. So I don't even know who this is, who cuts together these crazy videos, and I've watched quite a few of them, but he's got 2 from Kindergarten Cop. One of them, which, man, he turns Schwarzenegger saying, back to the carpet into...
Back to the carpet.
That is a bop, if I have ever heard one. It is a take one toy and bring it back to the carpet, back to the carpet,
Bring it back to the carpet, 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 back to the carpet. Bring it back
like, I was in such a phase with that for a long time. I want to say it was after the 2016 election when I was like, anything that makes me laugh right now is sacred. And
put it in my head.
So, and then
immediately.
And so he did that one. And then more in line with today's movie, he did another one that is super trippy.
Oh yeah.
And it's that the poem that he reads to the kids at nap time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's was it Lean in the Wind and there's just like Schwarzenegger like mouths gaping and Schwarzenegger heads coming. Like you have to if you look up if you go on YouTube and you look for just Back to the Carpet and Lean in the Wind is the other one. And perhaps we can, I don't know, post links somewhere. But in
the episode's description. Yeah, if you send me links, I'll put them in the episode description.
If you love Kindergarten Cop and bizarre remixes of things, yeah, I want to, like, it still makes me laugh and gives me a chuckle. So I wanted to pay that forward.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, for me, I didn't really have anything more to add to the Kindergarten Cop discussion. It's just so good. It's just so good.
Oh, and I feel like we talked a little bit about the rest of the cast, but not necessarily their other work. And a lot of these actors are actors who haven't done anything at least high profile in a long time. But Richard Tyson was, I don't think I mentioned this, but he was the bully in 3 O'Clock High.
You did mention that.
I did mention that. Okay.
That's literally the only thing that we mentioned about him.
That is all right. Well, it's worth mentioning again. And I want to talk about
what we didn't mention.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say Penelope Ann Miller, aside from Big Top Pee-wee, has given some great performances. I love her in Carlito's Way, which, not Carlito's Way, but Scarface apparently is being remade.
Scarface is being remade. In
news, apparently the screenplay has been written by Joel and Ethan Coen.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So, which I am not the biggest Scarface fan.
Neither am I.
So that gave me a bit of an eyebrow raise when I saw that.
Well, one thing that gave me a raise of an eyebrow was, and I believe I shared this with you when it came out about a year ago, Kindergarten Cop actor Richard Tyson arrested on suspicion of public intoxication and harassment. And man, oh man, the picture is not flattering. Time has not treated Richard Tyson well. And they really just talk about how he's the Kindergarten Cop actor. He was that. They also mentioned that he was in Kingpin, Me, Myself, and Irene, and There's Something About Mary. His mugshot, Dan, I'll just, I can't hold it up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. With the virtual background, it just takes him and just kind of makes him like float. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, he's replaced Mike Nesmith now?
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, that's not great.
Hey, we're the Monkees.
He's so good in Kindergarten Cop. Like, so many other people could play that role, but he just works in that role.
Who else? I would have loved to have seen Crispin Glover in that role.
Crispin Glover would be great. I think that he does have like a bloated Crispin Glover quality to him.
It's great. We had droopy Paul Rudd. And now...
Yeah.
And
bloated Crispin Glover.
Yeah, bloated.
I think I would like to see like Woody Harrelson in the Cullen Crisp role.
Like Woody Harrelson around that time?
Yeah.
Yeah. 1990.
Yeah.
I think Woody Harrelson, like mid-90s, like Natural Born Killers, Woody Harrelson.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. People versus Larry Flint era.
So
he'd be good.
Question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
This is going off topic a little bit, but I feel like you have said a couple times that there was a year in movies that to you was like the best year in movies. Do you remember what that would have been?
Yeah, probably 1989, possibly 1989. 1991 So these are like my big movie years are 1999, 1994,
Okay.
1991, 1989, 76. I don't know. I'm kind of going off the top of my head of years that I've said that about. I wrote on my blog about 1989 being a really significant year. It's kind of a nexus because 1989 was kind of the transition from like in movies from like a series to a franchise, because you had like in 1989, you kind of had, you have the last cinematic Police Academy movie. So you kind of have, you've got last as of now.
Yeah.
Most recent cinematic, because Mission to Moscow, I think, played in like one theater. Doesn't count.
Did it play in one theater?
I think it might. I think that's what I remember reading was it.
So you're trying to tell me that movie was Oscar eligible and it didn't get any? That's just complete bullshit.
I mean, you know, it's in good company. That movie came out in 1994, though, and 1994 was a stacked year.
Okay.
Pulp Fiction, Shawshank, Forrest Gump, Quiz Show, Ed Wood. I'm sure other things came out, but
so
yeah.
I wanted to ask you that because I feel like the most fun year in movies had to have been 87.
Oh, 80s, 19. So for me as a moviegoer, 87 was, I think, the year that I really just was like all in. But yeah, fun.
So
yeah,
you've got Princess Bride, The Lost Boys, Spaceballs. You've got Predator,
The Monster Squad,
RoboCop,
Masters of the Universe. Do I need
Adventures in Babysitting, Overboard.
I'm just calling out the posters.
Raising Arizona.
Mannequin.
Right, you have Mannequin. There's just so many amazingly fun movies.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Running Man, Lethal Weapon, Over the Top. I
The Last
mentioned this
Emperor.
because right, that's true.
Wall Street.
I just mentioned this because the other night I was watching Stakeout.
We watched Stakeout recently.
Oh yeah, it's
87 classic.
So much fun.
87
it's so much fun.
87, yeah, you know what? Whereas like 87 might not necessarily be like the greatest year in like I'm thinking of the 1987 Oscars, and I know, or like the Oscars that took place in 88.
Right.
So I know Last Emperor won Best Picture and Bertolucci won Best Director.
Oh, because Harry and the Hendersons was the runner-up.
Harry and the Hendersons, I want to say, won Best Makeup. And for the longest time, because when HBO promoted Harry and the Hendersons airing, they said they referred to Don Amici as Academy Award winner Don Amici, and I didn't realize that he had won the award for Cocoon and not Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh.
So Harry and the Hendersons is such a fun movie. Jaws the Revenge. If you want to hear me talk about the fun and craziness of Jaws the Revenge, check out our Jaws episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, The Last Emperor really swept the Oscars.
Wall Street.
Mostly because there was like nothing else.
Well, it was Oscar worthy stuff was like, yeah, it was Last Emperor, Wall Street.
The Last Emperor won production design. It won Best Original Music Score, Best Sound Mixing. It adapted screenplay. It was just hitting all of them. Moonstruck won a few.
Oh, Moonstruck. Yes, that's right. Moonstruck. That's a fun movie.
Cher, Olympia Dukakis. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage.
Sean Connery won for The Untouchables for Best Supporting.
The Untouchables was that summer. Yes. Another fun movie.
But you really only had a few like serious like Oscar movies.
Right.
And then you just had a lot of fun zaniness.
I think that's because The Last Emperor was like the length of 3 of them.
Yeah, totally.
So it was just like, we want people. No, have you ever seen The Last Emperor?
When I was a kid, yeah.
Because it was on HBO all the time.
Yeah.
But I remember like catching it in different sections and I had no idea what was going on. I just remember when he like slits his wrists in the beginning.
Oh yeah. It's
and
messed up.
I was not making any of the connections and I didn't know any of the story, any of the history. Mm-hmm. So I would like to watch that movie now being older and smarter.
Right. Being
I
of
think.
appropriate age to watch such a movie.
To watch The Last Emperor.
10. Yeah.
Hey, it's PG-13. We saw Spaceballs in the theater.
Those are the only things that are similar about those two movies. I know, just the fact that they came out in 1987.
Yeah. Back to the Beach. Did that title not come up?
That did not come up.
La Bamba in 1987.
Well, and of course, La Bamba and Back to the Beach played a pretty prominent role in our family's home video recording of our trip to California in 1987.
Well, those were the two soundtracks that I had. Those were the cassette tapes that I had. And
we were doing The Bird.
I mean, we posed in front of a poster of the movie. We weren't even going to see the movie. We were at Fuddruckers. Yeah. And
so
yeah.
So let's go back about 20 years before that, 19 years before that, and let's talk about Head.
Let's talk about Head. Let's talk about the Monkees.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Well, let's start off talking about just the Monkees themselves.
Yeah. It's important. It's really important to talk about how they come together, because it has so much to do with this movie.
It's a group that was created by Bob Rafelson, who directed Head, and Bert Schneider, who produced Head. They were creating a family-friendly television show called The Monkees. They tried to get it going. I think Bob Rafelson tried to get it going a few years before, but it wasn't until A Hard Day's Night came out that they were finally just like, oh yeah, let's do that show, because it's kind of like this. And they cast these 4 actor-musicians. I mean, Davy Jones was a stage actor, and the rest of the guys were kind of just musicians. I think that Mickey Dolenz had done some acting before.
Yeah. Well, no, Mickey and Davy, it was like they got 2 actors who could handle music and 2 musicians who could handle acting.
Yeah, totally. And not to mention Michael Nesmith, and I think his mother invented whiteout or something.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, you know who else auditioned to be Monkees? Paul Williams.
Did he really? Oh my God.
Yes, imagine A Dangerous Business could have been
Did he write any Monkees songs? I don't think so.
I don't think he did, but Harry Nilsson, who wrote some Monkees songs,
definitely
auditioned.
Did.
Yeah, Stephen Stills.
Yeah, so So the Monkees didn't write their own music for a little while. It was at the beginning mostly Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart. They're the ones that did Hey, we're the Monkees. And then they did later go on to compose some of their own music, but also did songs by Neil Diamond, Jerry Goffin and Carole King, Nilsson, of course.
Nilsson, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like they definitely get a bad rap because they are a band, but they're not a band the way that the Beatles were a band, where they're just cranking out all of these originals.
And they also didn't come together organically.
No, they didn't, but it's kind of the new way that bands come together. The talents kind of get, I don't know, plucked out, and the auditions happen to fit these people together. And from the looks of it, I mean, I feel like it's a really well-cast group.
Well, you know how well-cast it is because they've stayed together or gotten back together through, I mean, Mickey and Mike, who are the 2 surviving members, are touring. Peter was touring with them when he was alive.
If you go to their Wikipedia page, you'll see kind of a bigger history of who dropped out when. Peter disappeared for a little while because he wasn't getting along with them, but
Michael was gone for a while. But their album, I want to say it came out in 2015, Good Times, where
it's great.
The songs were written by Adam Schlesinger.
Right, pour one out.
Yeah. And Ben Gibbard, who wrote Me and Magdalena. It's a beautiful song. It's a great album. And they even got an old track that Davey had recorded. So you've got Davey on the album too. So
yeah. And I think they came out with another album since then that Adam Schlesinger was a producer on. But that one, and then last year we lost Peter, pour one out.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, they're so likable, and they each have their own really cool quality. And when I was trying to think of like who my favorite Monkee was, I really couldn't decide, because I feel like at different times in my life it's been a different person. I think that Michael Nesmith might be my current. Why are you laughing?
Oh no, it's funny because first of all, I figured Michael Nesmith would be your favorite. I think my favorite.
Why is that?
There's a subtlety to him.
Yeah, there really
is. That the others don't. Peter, there's a subtlety to Peter too, but it's more in the naivete and simplicity.
I think that when I was a kid, I was drawn more towards like Peter and Davy. I don't think I've ever been Mickey hasn't been my like number one ever.
Mickey has always been my number one.
Really? I do love Mickey. Him.
I tried to, I tweeted at him to,
did you
see? Yeah. Well, cause I had a few questions about Head, and, just kind of figured I'd throw it out there. Yeah. Mickey Dolenz.
Yeah. He's great. He's just like never made it to my number one slot. That's all.
To me, he's the total package, because he's kind of like, there's really not a lead singer, but he's kind of the de facto lead singer.
Right. It's funny because I feel like when I was younger, I always just associated Davy Jones with being kind of like the singer. And that's probably because he sang like Daydream Believer. And
he didn't play an instrument. He played the tambourine.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and
musically, he was the Tracy Partridge of the.
That's
of
right.
The group.
Yeah, and but yeah, I mean, Mickey Dolenz did a bulk of the singing and is great.
Davy was. I mean, they were all heartthrobs, but Davy was.
Oh yeah,
the heartthrob. That was his role,
and famously so in the movie, the Brady Bunch movie. Which is one of my like in a movie that is packed to the brim with jokes. The joke of Marsha trying to get Davy Jones to come to the school dance in like the 90s is like the funniest thing to me.
And the teachers losing their minds.
Oh my God.
When he's performing.
So good. It's so good. What a great gag.
But that's the other
he went for it. He's great.
But that's the thing about the Monkees, and I think that's another factor of their success, is they just have this wonderful humor about who they are and their personas, and well, maybe not so much in Head, but
that's the thing.
They still have a lot of humor.
That's what makes Head so interesting.
Yeah,
is that you do have the humor and their personalities coming out, but they're trying to say something.
Oh.
And they're trying to say a lot of things. And it's, the TV show, I watched a little bit with my kid the other day, and she loved it. It's just zany and silly, and then they play a good song, and it's fun, and everybody loves it. But like the movie Head is just wild. And I love that that Millie DeCherico put it on the list for us to cover this month. Yeah, I was very excited about that. So why don't I launch into a very brief synopsis? Because
John, I was wondering. I was like, how are you gonna try this? So
it's very brief because this is.
Let's see.
This okay, Dan. Have you ever seen the movie Hot Rod with Andy Samberg?
Not in its entirety. Not for lack of enjoying it, but I think just for lack of like.
Hot Rod is about an Evel Knievel wannabe kind of guy who's just not very talented at stunts, but thinks he is. And he is getting ready to do this big stunt. And it's basically, so he sets up this big stunt and he gets there's an AM radio station that gets the exclusive rights to cover the event of this stunt where he's going to ride a motorcycle, jump a motorcycle over a bunch of buses. And Chris Parnell plays the DJ for the AM radio station, which, first of all, you need to look up on YouTube a clip of him explaining why radio is great, because it involves a tattoo on his chest of Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes peeing on FM radio and television in the same stream. It's amazing. But anyway, during the jump, you just hear him say, like, there's so much going on, but like if you're paying attention to what he's saying, he says, "This needs to be seen to be believed," which is the funniest thing that somebody on the radio can say about an event that they have the exclusive rights to cover. And that's how I feel about Head. There's no way to describe it. It needs to be seen to be believed. So I'm going to try anyway, but it's going to be brief. Davy Jones, Peter Tork, Michael Nesmith, and Mickey Dolenz, collectively known as the Monkees, travel through time and space to share a commentary on war, advertising, consumerism, and the entertainment industry. This film begins where it ends, at the dedication of the Gerald Desmond Bridge in Long Beach, California, and follows the Monkees as they often find themselves trapped, confused, and frustrated. This film also features Frank Zappa, Annette Funicello, Terry Garr, and a brief appearance from Jack Nicholson, who co-wrote the movie with famously anti-war producer Bert Schneider and Bert's frequent collaborator, director Bob Rafelson. That's all.
And a whole lot of, like, weed.
Right. I'd say that drugs were the fourth co-writer of the movie.
I think they deserve some screenwriting credit. Not a dig, but just saying, it seems very intentionally paced out.
Yes, and let me tell you, Dan, this is my favorite movie to play if I'm having like a party or something, and I need to have something on the TV that's just visual, but like the volume's muted, and we have like music playing from the stereo or something. Visually, this movie is so much fun to watch. I mean, it sounds great too, because it's a lot of songs performed by the Monkees, but
though none that, aside from the Porpoise song, it's not like the Monkees are in there doing their hits.
Right. No, they're not.
In fact, a lot of the songs they're doing, they're doing some songs a few songs I think that they wrote. And like, I think there's a Peter song in there, the one where they're all kind of like walking in different terrain, like one's in the mountains and one's through. I want to say that's a Peter song. I think I read that.
It feels very Peter, because to me he feels like, and I don't know if this is just the influence that this movie had on me, but he feels like the more spiritual one.
Oh yeah,
I never got to know too much. He is the guru, right?
And the dummy.
I'm
the dummy, Davey. I'm always the dummy.
It's, oh my God.
Yeah, you have to. It has to be seen to be believed.
So this movie came out, I think, the year after the TV show ended, and
the same. I want to say later. I want to say it was like later in the year.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it was said to be that this is the thing that killed the Monkees, which, as we know now, nothing.
Other than illness.
Yes. Nothing, not that literally killed them, but here we are talking about them. They're still putting out albums any way they possibly can. Yes, it definitely changed the way that people perceive them. I mean, at the time, they were hanging out with the people that they were thought to be like emulating. They were in those circles. I think, was it in the Harry Nilsson documentary where it's like he and Mickey Dolenz were together all the time?
Nilsson, Mickey Dolenz, John Lennon.
Yeah, getting drunk together at the Troubadour.
Yeah, and heckling his mother's brothers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember Mickey Dolenz tells the story about how like Nilsson's in the hospital and his throat is just totally trashed and everything, and he asks Mickey to get him a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of whiskey, and Mickey's like, "I'll get you the whiskey."
Yeah.
They were, to me, speaking of Harry Nilsson, he wrote the Daddy's song.
Yeah.
That Davy Jones performed.
Right, which is my favorite part of the whole movie.
It is, to me, it's so intense.
Yeah.
And there's something very, like, there's almost something very sinister about it. I think just because it's not like the music you've heard, and it's all of a sudden you've got like this big, horn section coming in. It's this very like vaudeville, old timey music, and Davey's like tap dancing. He's dancing with Tony Basil,
right?
Who apparently, hey Mickey, oh Mickey, you're so fine, is Mickey Dolenz.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm fairly certain I read that somewhere. Apologies if I'm incorrect.
So that scene is coming off of even just like thinking about how they get from point A to point Z is so wild. Like
point A back to point A.
Yeah, totally. So so right before that number with Davy Jones, the four of them are closed off in a room where they then are in a commercial for dandruff shampoo where they are dandruff on hair.
On the head of Victor Mature.
Right, yeah. And then they get vacuumed away. And then it's the three of them, Peter, Mickey, and Mike, they get sucked down into the thing, but Davey like clings onto the thing and makes his way out through a different way. And that's how he finds himself in this thing to perform the Nilsson song with the tuxedos. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
And it's so dark because it feels like he's almost like not in control of himself.
Well, and that's what I feel like a lot of this movie is about, how they aren't in control.
Yeah, exactly.
And how they're being manipulated time and time again.
And just kind of tossed around and they're none too subtle about it. There's that one scene because I think a lot of the little vignettes start very similarly to some of the things on the show. Okay. Like some of the sequences, it's like they start like like it's going to be a sequence from the show where they're in this Western town and they're trying to save the girl from, and then it just goes into this whole other direction and gets really dark, or you have like where they just walk off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, where like Peter gets into the fight with the waitress at the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just a set of a TV show or whatever, and he's just walking off. That's where you see Jack Nicholson briefly.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, and Dennis Hopper, by the way, in that scene as well.
Was he really? I did not notice him.
Oh yeah. It's I'm actually surprised. He's very much in his like Easy Rider because that's what they made next.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's crazy. And you know what? I also kind of connected the way that they transition from segment to segment reminded me so much of Mr. Show, which I guess I had seen Mr. Show. I've seen Head before, but I think I had seen, or I don't know that I had seen Mr. Show the first time I saw Head, but as I was watching it this time, I thought, I was like, wow, like not that they couldn't have come up with that concept without ever seeing Head, but.
Right. Yeah. Which Mr. Show is a sketch show where each sketch would transition somehow into the next one. And I remember hearing them talk about like how they came up with the transitions, and a lot of the times they couldn't think of a way to do it, so they would just make the last thing something that was on the TV in the next thing. Right. Like that was kind of their like fallback, if nothing else works plan.
Right.
But yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's definitely much more intentional in Head, especially because they keep coming back through the same sequences, and like where they're in, was in the old, in the Old West where they're in the, quote unquote cowboys and Indians scene where Terry Garr is, where Mickey is either going to save Terry Garr or Michael, and he saves Michael, or he goes with Michael because it's circular. The structure, it's not linear. It's circular, but yet it's not, because they also keep winding through.
Right. So it kind of goes from A to Y, and then it goes back down a little bit, and then it goes to Z through A again. It's really weird.
It's crazy, and then also at like the beginning of the movie, like the second sequence or third sequence is them outlining everything that's coming in the movie.
They say don't try to think too much about what you're about to see. Like, we're not going to tell you what it means.
Well, and they also start out with, hey, hey, we are the Monkees, you know, hey, hey, we're the Monkees. Hey, hey, we are, but they're not making you think at all, because they're putting it right out there. They're speaking very sarcastically about, you know, being manufactured.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, we are the Monkees. You know we love to please. A manufactured image with no philosophies. We hope you like our story, although there isn't one. That is to say, there's many. That way there is more fun. You've told us you like action and games of many kinds. You like to dance, we like to sing, so let's all lose our minds.
We know it doesn't matter, because what you came to see is what we'd love to give you, and give it 1, 2, 3.
But it may come 3, 2, 1, 2, or jump from 9 to 5. And when you see the end in sight, the beginning may arrive.
For those who look for meanings, inform as they do fact, we might tell you one thing, but we'd only take it back.
Not back like in a box back, not back like in a race, not back so we can keep it, but back in time and space.
You say we're manufactured. To that we all agree. So make your choice and we'll rejoice in never being free.
Hey, hey, we are the Monkees. We've said it all before. The money's in, we're made of tin, we're here to give you more. The money's in, we're made of tin, we're here to give you...
I think it's such a brilliant way to like kind of say, like, you know, to the people who say this and really feel this way, screw you. Like, we're doing our thing, and, you know, we're not what you think we are.
Yeah, and I was also kind of picking up on, and maybe it's not there. I felt this time around like I was picking up on a lot of digs at the Beatles.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Well, because so the Monkees were, you know, generally seen as this, like, you know, Beatles ripoff, you know, made for TV.
Right.
And these guys, for the most part, felt that they were capable of saying more, that they felt more, you know, as they're singing I'm a Believer, they really are wanting to speak out more and speak their minds, rather than singing these, you know, rather than fluff. It's kind of like they want to, and they don't want people to think of them as fluff or manufactured. Whereas you have the Beatles, who are this very organic, you know, this band that came together organically and writes their own songs and they made themselves. And they've got this platform, and then they go and make movies that can reach so many people. And they make A Hard Day's Night.
Yeah. And
they make Help. And they're not really using those. I felt like there was, like, the Monkees or someone involved was taking a dig at the Beatles for not using the platform that they have and being more vocal. I mean, yes, we know John Lennon was very, vocal activist, but at this point, was he really in 1968?
I don't know. And it's so many of these people who were so big at this time were so heavily influenced by their peers.
Yeah.
And it could be that, like, something like Head could have been an influence to have him be more vocal about his beliefs.
Oh,
and
totally.
For anybody who knows the real truth behind this stuff, rather than just the theories that we're spitting out.
Yeah.
You know, we know that we are just spitting out theories and that these are a little less informed, but...
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I am always throwing out the disclaimer that I might just be talking out my ass here. But sometimes when I'm talking out my ass, I make sense. This time, but like you've got Peter whistling "Strawberry Fields Forever" as he's walking into the bathroom.
Right.
After Davey sees the giant eye.
The eye.
This is why you just have to watch the movie.
Right.
Because otherwise you're saying Davey and there's a giant eye in Strawberry Fields and what?
talk about police brutality.
Hi, mate. What's happening? You all right?
Peter, no.
I get it. The old mirror routine, right? Well, let me tell you one thing, son. Nobody ever lends money to a man with a sense of humor.
You've got that, and they seem to be throwing everything they've got, and you know that the Monkees didn't necessarily like being compared in that way.
Right. Yeah, of course. And it's so funny to look at it now and think about the criticisms that people would have about the Monkees just kind of performing other people's music, whereas now that's so common that like there's somebody else that's writing songs for, like, writing hits for all these people.
Yeah. I mean, it was common in music, but not necessarily in rock music.
Right.
You know, it was common, like Elvis Presley didn't write his songs.
Totally.
But it was more like in this new era of rock where you've got the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson, you've got the Beatles, you've got the Kinks, you've got all these, you know, the Stones. The Stones played other people's music or took other people's music and adapted it. But yeah, you have these artists who also have the freedom to do that because they're not owned.
Yeah.
I guess as much.
So yeah, and just to kind of go back to some of the scenes in Head and how blatantly they're sending messages. Like, one of the first scenes is the like stadium where they're spelling out war, and then they're in the war sequence, and then Mickey's in the desert and he sees the Coca-Cola machine, but he can't get anything in it, and then he gets a tank and he blows it up, and it's just like, oh my god. Like, there's talking about subtlety, not very subtle.
And you're not mentioning all of the footage, all of the news footage from the war in Vietnam, and the famous shot of the South Vietnamese officer shooting a Viet Cong prisoner, point blank range to the temple, which is repeated multiple times, or, you know, parts of that clip are repeated, but also just like, you know, Vietnamese villagers, you know, there's a lot they're showing you. They're not hinting at it. They're not, you know, it's not like MASH where, let's say it's Korea, but it's Vietnam. Yeah. They were showing you actual Vietnam at the time that this was all going on and putting it on a big screen.
Yeah.
And making you watch it again and again and again.
For not full theaters to see.
Right. Well, because if you went to the theater and you were expecting, you know,
hey, with the Monkees.
Exactly. I mean, that was what I would imagine people were expecting was, hey, we're the Monkees. And that backfired on them because the people who wanted that didn't get that and got something so polar opposite of it.
Yeah.
Well, it actually it saw a rejection of that, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mentioned earlier that the producer of Head, Bert Schneider, who was the producer on the TV show, I don't remember the exact story, but he was very vocally anti-war, and it might have been like at the Golden Globes or something, like he made a speech and really ruffled some feathers of people who didn't see his anti-war sentiments the same way that he did. And I think that Frank Sinatra actually like made a comment about it. And yeah, it was just I don't know.
I'm looking at it right now. I want to say this is when, because he produced Hearts and Minds, the documentary very critical of the Vietnam War, and he is talking about, I will now read a short, I'm not going to read this, but I will now read a short wire that I have been asked to read by the Vietnamese people. It is sent by Ambassador Dinh Pa Thi, who is the chief of the provisional, he's reading a message from the Vietnamese at the Academy Awards.
Oh, was it the Academy Awards?
That was at the Academy Awards. I
don't know. I read this a while ago, so I don't remember the exact story. Yeah, it's really funny because he and Bob Rafelson, who were instrumental in creating the Monkees, creating this kids show, really, about this band, to see them develop throughout the 60s and, really hone in on their beliefs and want to get those beliefs out there, and kind of using the Monkees a little bit to help get that message out there. I don't know. It's kind of brilliant. And yeah, the movie didn't do well at the time, but it is for sure a cult classic. It is highly enjoyable. And I mean, it's Criterion released a copy of it. I wish I had my hands on that because there's commentary on it that I would love to see. So actually, I think they've got a sale going on right now. I might order ahead. That one would be for sure worth it.
Don't tell me that. Yeah, it's also, it's never streaming. I can't think of a time when I've seen it streaming on a service. And I wouldn't have it if I didn't have a copy from you, John.
Yeah. So it should be noted. So this is not a head reboot, but in '86, there was interest to make what was called The New Monkees, a reboot of the series The Monkees that featured none of the original cast members. And it was produced by Columbia, distributed by Coca-Cola Telecommunications, which I found interesting just because of the scene in the desert where they blow up the Coke machine. And it was, about a band. And that band was Jared Chandler.
That sucked.
Yeah, Jared Chandler, Dino Kovas, Larry Saltis, and Marty Ross. And as it had been with the original Monkees, each had to pass a grueling set of auditions. Unlike the previous series, however, musical ability was a key factor in the selection process. Ross, a multi-instrumentalist, had earlier been signed to CBS, blah, 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 blah. Who's in the band The Wigs? That's right. So
I thought I'd heard his name before.
Yeah, so there was something, but I think it lasted 12 episodes or something.
I'm just one of the boys.
But also around that time, the original Monkees series started playing again in syndication. I think Nickelodeon or Nick at Night had it, and I feel like I remember in New York the Channel 5, which was the Fox affiliate.
Fox.
Yeah.
Was Fox around then?
It wasn't. No.
Yeah.
This was just before the Fox network started.
Yeah.
But it was Channel 5. It was it was the Fox local affiliate, and they were playing episodes of the Monkees, and the Monkees became popular again through Nickelodeon, and they released a greatest hits then and now, Best of the Monkees, which featured I want to say 3 new recordings, one of which that was Then This Is Now was a pretty big hit song. I had that cassette.
So it makes sense that there would have been the resurgence in '86, because going back to 1987 and our family's home video from our trip to California, there were a lot of Monkees references.
Well, there's a reason why we do the Monkees walk down this. I mean, we watched the show all the time.
So, and let's see, when that was coming back, I would have been 3. Perfect age to watch the Monkees, if you ask me. Just ask my almost 3-year-old. Yeah.
I mean,
the Monkees walk, which by the way lasts for a half of a second in the credits. And also them running up to the beach and then the water coming into them running back. Like, we totally did that.
Oh my God, we did. Wow.
Yeah. We totally did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Had it not been for the Nickelodeon decision to re-air those, who knows if I would be as big of a Monkees fan as I have always been.
I would venture to say probably not.
Yeah. But, man, gotta love the Monkees.
So I'm curious to know, John, what your thoughts are in terms of, I mean, okay, there's not going to be a sequel.
No.
There's not going to be, like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of those cult classic movies where it is so heavily, I don't know, the status that it has is so heavily tied to the people and the time. And so I think that this is one of those where it can't be a straight reboot or sequel or prequel. It would really have to be a movie about the movie. It would have to be, I don't know, whether it's a documentary. That's why I really want to see the movie with the commentary that Criterion put out, because those are the things that I want to know. I really want to hear the people behind this movie talking about it. And unfortunately, our time is limited for something like that. And we won't be able to ever hear any more thoughts from half of the Monkees about, their experience. So
yeah,
I don't know. There's something about it where it's like, it's a really special thing. And honestly, I think that really it's just a matter of re-airing, the Monkees episodes, making Head available to people. It's less of a re-release. Well, no, it's a re-release, yeah, but with some fanfare, because this is perfect for, I know that right now there's no such thing as movie theaters really, but like this is perfect midnight movie fodder.
Yeah, or like if you're doing, a watch along or something, with friends virtually, you're doing a remote thing, everyone watches Head and then you're all, talking back. I don't know. I have not done this. I don't know if this happens. Where people, I'm like, you get on Zoom and you watch a movie together. What? No one does that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that HBO they are launching a feature if you like use like HBO Now through like a computer where you can like watch along with friends. I think I just saw an article about that today.
I saw something like that. I was going in a bit of a different direction in the, like what is the new life for this movie. And I see it as more of we are in very divisive times right now. Much like the late 60s, there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of frustration and there's a lot of, like we've got, the billionaires that were angry because, people are losing their jobs, but the billionaires are still taking home the bonuses. Right. And we've got, potential, like we're not at war, but yet we are, because there's all this crazy stuff going on and we don't know what North Korea is going to do. Is he even alive? Is he dead? Kim Jong-Un. What?
We know who you were talking about, Dan.
Okay. Just to clarify. Yeah. So I was trying to think, I was like, okay, this band used this platform and this ability and maybe the fact that like they were on this TV show that just got canceled and they were making this movie that was just kind of like, all right, well, we have to get this done. So maybe there wasn't much oversight on it. I was trying to think of who's a musical artist that could create something like Head that comments similarly on the times. And it might not be like about them. It might be, or it might not be, about that person, that artist or that group. I was trying to think of who could do this. And I was like, who would have the autonomy, the nerve, but also has the passion to do this. And I think the most likely candidate that comes to mind is Lady Gaga.
Okay.
Who we know is not afraid to take artistic risks.
Right.
And I think she has that passion.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very compassionate person who, and don't get me, like, I am not like the world's biggest Lady Gaga fan, but I have a ton of respect for her and, you know, what she does and how she uses her status, uses her fame, uses her wealth to, to empower others and to fight injustice. So she was kind of the top of my list. She's also probably the most relevant artist on my list. I was like, BTS is not going to make the next Head.
So the thing that's special about, Head in 1968 with the Monkees, and this is something that it's similar to what I've talked about before on this podcast about how, like, every year that passes, there are just more and more and more and more and more movies. Like, I don't know, like there was a time when there weren't as many movies. So when something came out that was significant, it really made waves. But now there's so much oversaturation that it's a lot harder for a movie to make a difference.
Well, especially now that we don't go to the movies.
Well, of course, there's that.
It could thin out the herd cinematically.
So for rock music in 1968, I mean, that type of rock music was still pretty new. It was still a time when musicians didn't have this like political voice the way that they do now, where everybody knows everybody's opinions. And, this is really like the first wave of like really getting out messages about political beliefs. Of course, you soon have, the Beatles personally saying things, and then you have, fast forwarding a little bit, you've got bands like U2 who are saying all these things that are making, big political leaps.
Oh.
And, now everybody is voicing their beliefs.
I mean, yes, and no. Some more strongly than others. Everybody is voicing things, but like I think the Monkees were just feeling it,
Right. Well, another thing is,
so
like,
who's feeling it?
You think about the Monkees, where it's like they had this, like, they were these goofy kids entertainers, really, that would put out these like cheery pop songs, similarly to like Taylor Swift, who then, comes out and starts speaking her mind about politics. And
yeah,
it's less shocking now because of people like the Monkees, who in the 60s were doing the same type of thing and kind of coming out of their molds and letting people know who they were. I mean, there's a lot of Bob Raffleson and Jack Nicholson and the writers of the movie who might have been more of an influence on what they were doing than themselves, but it's still them.
I think the other thing that you have that it makes it harder for something like this to happen today is the oversaturation of, it's not just the oversaturation of music, but it's that people in the 60s, you listened to music because you bought the record or you listened to the radio, and you probably bought the record because you heard it on the radio, and everybody listened to like the same stations, and not everybody bought the same records, but
everyone was listening to That Thing You Do.
Exactly. The Oneaters.
The Oneaters, they're the best.
Captain Gooch and the Shrimp Shack
Shooters. Shrimp Shack Shooters.
And the Shrimp Shack Shooters, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're the best. But everybody, there was like a collective consciousness. There was like this collective zeitgeist that we don't have as much anymore.
Right.
And it also changes so much, like the hot young thing. Like I think one of my kids saw me. I was like listening to Lil Nas X.
One of your students.
One of my students, one of my high school students.
Yeah.
Back when I was in the building with them, and I was like listening to Lil Nas X, and they were like, you're just getting into, like, they're like, oh wow. So it changes so much,
does.
It's hard to find. And just to throw out at you, there were I was trying to think of some other artists who I would be interested to see how they would make a musical film that comments on the times. And I mean, we're not talking about teeny boppers here, like David Byrne.
Right.
I'm excited to see what David Byrne and Spike Lee do together for is it American Dream.
Is that what it's called?
Is that what it's called? Or American? I off the top of my head, Flaming Lips have not shied away from being political and are very artistic.
Love the Flaming Lips.
I mean, I can see I can't see Pearl Jam making a film. They're outspoken politically.
The difference with the Monkees is that they were a children's entertainment show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything now, but it's like if Doc McStuffins was like all of a sudden,
if Doc McStuffins was on the front lines of
the coronavirus.
The and you just like a whole Doc McStuffins episode is just like Doc McStuffins sitting in a corner crying and is just like, when will it end? I
mean, it's kind of funny because we do have...
Damn it, Chili, put a mask on.
We've had this happen to a certain extent with like Hannah Montana. Miley Cyrus is, there's all these like Disney stars who have then grown up, and
Miley Cyrus kind of did the head thing with kind of just destroying that Hannah Montana Disney
She came in
Channel
like a wrecking ball.
Image. Facts.
She sure did. Yes, I mean, I was really trying to think of like any kind of children's or like teenager show, and I don't really know what's out there right now, but I think to like the 90s when that show California Dreams was out, it was like the Saved by the Bell ripoff, but like about that band in like LA.
Wow.
And it's like, what if the California Dreams kids,
what if the Heights?
Yeah, totally. And like, what if they came out and like made this like crazy movie?
How can you vote for an asshole?
Yeah. So I don't know.
How can you make a choice for 4 more years? So I love that song.
So if anybody listening can think of any current family entertainment shows where there's a group of people who would later shock the world with a psychedelic anti-establishment movie, let us know. ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just children's shows. It's family entertainment, because the Monkees was kind of just meant to appeal to everybody.
Yeah. Though they got very counterculture, especially towards the end.
I don't really remember the end of their run so much.
So the last episode I was reading was directed. It was directed and I think written by Mickey Dolenz. And I want to say the title of the episode was a weed reference.
Oh, really?
And there was like a lot of smoke in this episode. And like there was this like spaceship that it would give off this smoke. And whenever it would give off this smoke, it would make people like calm and docile.
Oh my goodness. There's got to be like a box set somewhere of the Monkees, like the series. I'd love to go back and watch all those. Yeah, they're just wonderful. I'm really trying to think of like what kind of family shows are out right now. I just don't know. I'm not up on a lot of like what's currently on television. Well, it's like if Young Sheldon kind of came out and was like, I don't know about this Kim Jong-Un character.
It's like they do an episode of Young Sheldon where it's just that like falling down with Michael Douglas and he's just like.
And I like that it's not like older Sheldon. It's specifically young Sheldon.
It's got to be. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, the last episode of the Monkees was, co-written and directed by Mickey Dolenz. And it was entitled Mihakojeo, a.k.a. The Frodis Caper. And the main title was
Caper.
Frodis being Mickey's code word for weed. This is from, I'm reading Chuck Stevens' essay for Criterion, for the Criterion version of Heaven.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, they do. All discs 30% off.
Yeah. I know. I'm sorry I let you know about that. We're in trouble.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So, yeah. It's a crazy movie, and I think that if you're just kind of going in blind and you're just like, you just find this movie and put it on without any context, yeah, you're not going to know what the hell is going on.
Or if you just want to put something on visually to play on a TV while you're having a party with other music playing, it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone's going to be like, whoa, what is happening over here?
Yeah, are they dandruff? What is happening? Is that Victor Mature? I want to be at a party where someone goes, is that Victor? I had to look him up because I was like, I know he's someone, but who is he? And
right.
I love him in this. He's
great. He's great.
He's great.
I would love for you to be at a party where somebody says that. I think that'd be fun.
And I hope it's a Halloween party, and I hope someone is there dressed as Victor Mature.
Right. Dan.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to say about Head before we move on and talk about the next episode?
I mean, it's a fascinating movie. I think it definitely, if it suffers from anything, it's just from the overload of messaging. But man, and the other thing about this movie that what didn't make it a hit was that it's very critical of pretty much everybody, and it's really it's calling people out for like apathy and for just treating them like pieces of meat or mannequins.
Okay, what was your favorite segment in the movie? If you just had to pick one.
Oh man, my favorite segment in the movie, I would probably go with probably Daddy's Song.
Okay. That would be my favorite like musical moment.
I'm trying to either Daddy's Song or or the dummy sequence.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the dummy sequence is great.
That stands out to me.
Yeah, so the sequence where it's Michael's surprise party, I think that might be my favorite because he kind of has this thing, and he doesn't really do too much talking in this movie, but during this scene, like where he's just confused, doesn't know what's going on, and then it's like he's asleep and he gets woken up, and then there's this surprise party being thrown for him, and he's just like, no, I don't want to do this. Like that's exactly right. It's people deciding what you're going to do all the time. And I just love that. I thought that was a really great moment. There's also the weird thing at the beginning where that woman goes around and like makes out with each one of them.
Oh, well, but that to me was like a segment on the show. That would have been, it reminded me of the Spin the Bottle. Well, there's the famous Spin the Bottle episode when it's like this girl that Peter has a crush on, but every time she spins the bottle, it lands on Davy. And like at one point, they even tell Davy to leave the room, and like Davy leaves the room, she spins the bottle, and the bottle like flies and hits the door.
Oh, what a good show.
So that's, and it's kind of like that first post-credit sequence. And it's probably the only sequence that plays out entirely like a sequence on the show, because I think is it after that they go into the hey we are the Monkees and this is what
yeah
so it's kind of like we've given you what you came for, and now we're going to give you what we want to give you.
Right. Yeah. And by the post-credit sequence, you mean when Nick Fury comes in and drafts them to become Avengers?
Yes, exactly. That. Oh man, there we go. There's the reboot.
So Dan, do you want to tell everyone what we're going to be talking about on the next episode?
Yes, I do hope that the power of Christ compels you to watch our next episode, which will be all about The Exorcist.
Is this our first horror movie that we're talking about?
This may indeed be our first. I think this is our first horror movie. Yeah, if we don't count The Crow, I guess.
No, we don't. I think it's safe to say that we're not huge horror movie people, but The Exorcist, I know, is a significant one for you. The poster is right behind you right now. I'm really looking forward to talking about it. And I'm going to watch it during the daytime because otherwise I'm not going to sleep for like a week.
Yeah. So I'm excited to talk about that. It's a movie that's been one of my favorites for a long time. I do have the poster in back of me. I think I've said it before. It is the most common question I get on all of my Zoom conferences. Is that an Exorcist poster behind you? I say, why, yes, it is.
I was watching something. There's a movie that came out within the past year called Extraordinary. It's with Will Forte, Claudio Derriti. It's takes place in Ireland, shot in Ireland. It's a funny movie that's about kind of like exorcisms and ghosts and stuff. And they're not like blatantly exorcisms. Like it's a comedy. It's very silly. But there's a shot that is. As soon as it came on the screen, I was like, and there's the Exorcist homage shot right there.
I think I'm looking at it when I go to the IMDb page.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Extraordinary.
But it's this movie. It's just, I don't know. What can you really say about it? Well, I guess we'll figure that out next week.
Yeah. And we'll have to chat. Let's not forget to chat about Repossessed while we're at it.
Dan, I wish you did not bring that up right now because I was so excited to talk about it and like blow your minds on the next episode. But we will talk about Repossessed.
Yes. All right, John. That's all I've got. Good journey.
Good journey, Dan.
With your smile, you did